Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 6-5 podcast. It's Friday. It's episode 231. We got a banger today. Banger, Mr. Moorhead. First and foremost, I've been halfway across the world. I've been there. I've been back, and I'm energetic. I'm not jet lagged at all. Don't ask me how I do it. Otherwise, you're going to get me to share my supplements online along with my health journey. I would never do that. Just kidding. How's the handsomest guy at Moor Insights Strategy doing today?
Doing great. It's so good to be here. You know, it's the calm before the storm, Dan, and I really like my home time. Before that, I cracked open my calendar, and I think I'm on the road 7 out of 8 weeks. Ooh. And somebody's trying to get me for that 7th week, but it's not going to be cheap. That's all. That's all I have to say. You know, but no, listen. Yeah, I mean, people who share their health journey online. I mean, what a bunch of exhibitionists.
Weird, man. I don't get it. No, I'm just kidding, dude. I'm so proud of you. I know we talk about this a lot, but, you know, there's different things and different moments in our lives that come up. And, you know, you're a changed man. I know we got some really sad news. I won't share the details of it about someone that passed a little bit too young. And it's those moments that kind of help you reflect and say, hey, am I doing everything I can? You know, you're working hard, you're driving revenue, you're on the TVs, you're advising some of the most important companies on the planet. But, you know, like you want to come home and see your kids grow up, maybe become a grandfather at some point in time, you know, and, you know, it's those moments that kind of bring us back to earth and realize that, heck, yeah, you know, helping that next node get out or driving that next new launch of an instance. It's all fun stuff, but it's a lot more fun when you're moving and healthy. And by the way, I hiked a mountain with you, and you know, I know you're like 67 or whatever you are, but man, you don't act a year older than 60. I'm telling you, you are humming, buddy.
No, I appreciate that. And, you know, I'll add to your kind of reflection statement. I mean, there's sometimes you just can't do anything about it. And that's, you know, I am a man of faith, and, you know, I don't care what religion it is. I think faith is important because, you know what, here's what I can tell you with 100% degree of certainty. You will die and you will pay taxes. Anyways, hey,
genetics are they are a problem. I mean, for sure. Like you can do a lot of things, but you can, you know, I always say it's like a 10%er. It's like you can make up about maybe 5 or 10% by doing everything right. But there are certain genetic markers that it doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
You're up against it. But you know what, Pat, you're doing the right things. Proud of you, buddy. Call that out. But speaking of proud of you, buddy, I mean, some bangers this week out there. You know, you were real busy talking about the DOJ, or gosh, did they file a probe? Did they not? Seems like they didn't, but man, you know, the source of that story, geez, I mean, it was a good source. It was not the kind of source you would expect to be wrong. So we'll have to talk about that. But man, we got just a great show this week to cover. You got, you know, DOJ stuff. We've got massive IFA launches, IFA, the Computext of Europe. You've got some pretty big announcements that came out of there. We've got just a vast number of rumors around Intel. I think you and I are going to try to dispel. I tried to do it yesterday, and I got like 85% right. I joke, you know, I get confused. Sometimes where the lakes meet the rivers, meet the falls, you know, you just start to conflate things in your brain. So listen, all you out there correcting me, I really appreciate that. I look forward to seeing your research when you figure out how to put this all together. And then, of course, we got some earnings, Pat. You and I, we're both covering. We talked to some of these CEOs this week, last week. And so lots to cover this week. For everyone out there, just know this show is for information and entertainment purposes only. So while Patrick and I will be sharing some great insights, we are not providing financial advice. Pat always likes to say, do the opposite. I just say, don't do anything because of what we say. Just do nothing. And that will be the best bet you can make. Pat, because we have so much content, I'm not going to BS anymore. We're going to get right into it here. I don't know about you, but starting at about 2 a.m. the other night, my phone, I was in Europe, started blowing up about this DOJ filing or not filing. Give us the rundown.
Yeah. So first off, the Wall Street Journal probably a month ago picked this story up, but Bloomberg came in with some new information. It was super popular. And I think the reason is they used the word subpoena in it. And typically the word, you know, subpoena is more correlated to crime than something different. But what happened is the stock tanked. And what a lot of people said was, oh my gosh, there's this correlation. The reality was the stock didn't tank because of this article. It tanked because of worries about the economy. So I just had to put that out there out on the table. So it was funny, you know, I got a call. Hey, can you be on CNBC in 5 minutes? And I did a phone in on John Fort's show after the bell. And then the morning after, I did a Yahoo Finance talk about it. So let me air this out. So first of all, a little background. I've been involved in tech antitrust for a long time. I was a key witness in FTC versus Intel, AMD versus Intel, and very active in the stuff that happened with World versus Qualcomm, Apple versus Qualcomm, and not that makes me a lawyer. I'm not, but gives me at least enough.
Glad you clarified that, Pat. Not a lawyer.
Enough experience to talk about this. I was interviewed or grilled by Intel's lawyers for the Texas state maximum of 24 hours. But anyways, first of all, it's not illegal to hold a monopoly. It's illegal to use monopolistic powers to harm consumers. And typically the bar for market share, market definition is important, is 50%. And NVIDIA has, 90+% of the data center GPU market, and its AI which is, huge for society. So yeah, it just sends off red flares. No surprise here at all that the DOJ is investigating NVIDIA. Now, what are some of the illegal things that I'm speaking hypothetically that could be tying, which could be hey, if you buy GPU plus my networking, you can get a better allocation or a better price. Retaliation, again, hypothetically, if you buy AMD, I won't get you the samples early or ship the volumes that you want. Exclusionary rebates are also illegal. Again, hypothetically, if you go with AMD, I'm not going to give you the same pricing. Pricing has to be volume based. That is the legal way to do it, or blocks, or the way you segment that. And why don't investors care? Because these things take 10 to 15 years. I mean, check out Microsoft, AT&T, IBM, Google, heck, Intel, literally, this thing kicked off in 2005, FTC in 2009, EU in 2009 is still fighting the penalty payment, okay? 15 years later. So these are infectious, right? From a global standpoint, meaning I fully expect the EU, Japan, Taiwan, probably Australia, they get emboldened by the EU. Oh yeah, and the CMA in the UK.
There's a filing this week, Pat, in like Texas too. Like,
oh yeah, good.
Not the same, but like kind of related.
Yeah. So final points here. These do slow companies down, right? You have to have a lawyer in important meetings about pricing, about strategy, about allocation. Correspondences need to be reviewed, or lawyers are copied on it. What happens is you copy a lawyer, have a lawyer in a room, it goes under attorney-client privilege, and it can't be shared. And it slows stuff down. Now, it slowed Microsoft down big time. They missed mobile, they missed social, they missed a lot of inflection points. I just don't see that happening with NVIDIA. Jensen has command control versus a distributed management style. It's going to slow the company down, but I don't know. We want to argue. I did a Fortune interview. It's going to slow it down 5%, 1%. When you're going twice the speed of the rest of the industry, I don't know if it matters. Final comment. I was asked about the competitors. It's AMD and it's Broadcom. and Intel in 25, 26. But I don't think this has an impact on it, short term particularly.
Yeah, I think the first clarification point you made was really important. You know, you have a day when the market's selling hard. You have a company that's maybe seen as running too far too fast on its price, some catch up in terms of the overall digestion period of AI and when that's going to really hit. And then, you know, you had it sell. It did sell faster than the Mag 7 names. So, you know, there was an opportunity when they were selling 2%, 3%, 1.5% off, and NVIDIA was off 9%, that maybe this DOJ probe had created a bit of a selling pressure. You know, I did more interviews than probably, I spent more time on that than I spent on IFA at IFA, because I had so many calls, so many people wanted to, like,
crazy, man.
Well, listen, I think what happened was back in April, I wrote a Market Watch op-ed. So I started this process. You had to see, Pat, you and I have been involved in so many of these things in just the last few years, whether it's been Apple, Qualcomm, Samsung, Huawei, of course, you know, the various DOJ and FTC probes across different, you know, M&A deals. And, you know, when a company's doing this well, you just have to expect it to be scrutinized. You have a policy position right now in the government that big tech is really bad. You're seeing, you know, they're getting emboldened by the wins they got with Google. That's at least pushing that forward. Apple's App Store has been consistently under pressure. Probably the most realistic antitrust case that exists, although they've made much less progress than I think they should. You know, one of the great quotes I heard on the All In Pod was, that's because Apple's popular. People like Apple, so they don't want to push as hard as, you know, say at Google, where they're pushing harder. But here's the thing about NVIDIA, Pat, is like, you know, and I'm being candid. You know, you and I, we talk, we have, you know, we like to say the word channel checks. But we have real channel checks. We have real conversations through the channel, all the way up and down, from the OEMs to the distributors, service providers, and even to the enterprises that are consuming this stuff. And listen, it's just like, it's a lot of hot soup is what I'll call it. Like, kind of just comments of things that you're like, well, that could be. Like, we don't put a lot of things in writing, or deals are not, you know, like, you hear things about deals not being described in writing. You hear things about, oh, company A is going to potentially work with company B, and company A was mad about that, so they gave more product to company C. Yeah, nothing's proven. I mean, this is all just wild speculation. Bottom line is, you know, is it happening? And this was my comment in my tweet, my extended tweet, was like, it could be. It absolutely could be. And now it's on the FTC, the DOJ, to actually, well, first of all, Pat, do they even have a probe? Like, is this even going on? Because we've heard.
Well, here, Dan, let me be. There is a probe. It always starts with investigations, whether we would call it a subpoena or a forced, you know, and everybody's on document retention, you know.
Yeah, my point though is like how far this. Yeah, you're right. I agree with you. How far this is and where it's at, and how official this has become versus sort of semi-official versus, like you said, document retention versus them coming into offices and having sit-down meetings. I mean, I think they're talking to the channel. That's my guess. I think where a lot of this is coming from is they're talking to people who are buying it, consuming it, implementing it, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And is, you know, and you talked about consumer hard, Pat, but the other part of antitrust that's so important is competition. And so you obviously, you know, because I've always said along the Apple Store, for instance, is the consumers aren't harmed. They feel it's safer, it's more secure, and it's easy experience. But the competition has gotten smashed by it. And that's why I've always said that that's such a problem. In this particular case, it's like, look, people that are implementing and utilizing NVIDIA, you know, they've built on it, they've developed on it, they like it, it's integrated, it's a very closed sort of architecture where everything works together. But when you have an AMD Broadcom or an Intel, or you have these homegrown options, they're making entry really hard. And you mentioned the Intel thing. I see a lot of parallels to the Intel thing. You know, they're going to have 90+% of the market. They're going to lock this up in the very earliest stages of AI. And then when people say, hey, I want to write programming to a different piece of hardware, they're going to be like, well, unfortunately, it's in a container that's running on a piece of hardware that's running on a thing of software that's using a proprietary library, and you can't move this. Like, or it's going to be really expensive to move this. But Pat, I do see this continuing. It's going to be an ongoing conversation, something that will entertain us for many, many months to go. And I like this topic. I don't, you know, it's fun. So we'll keep talking about it. We'll see where it ends up. But we got to keep moving here, Pat. So Let's talk about Intel. I'll kick this off because I was in the room. Intel, had a big moment. This next Core Ultra launch, Lunar Lake. This is the newest node. It's their kind of breakthrough product that really made them competitive in AI PC. They'll talk about the 20 million Meteor Lake units shipped, but that part in terms of like the NPU and the competitiveness of the part was somewhat subdued. But it was the first in the market. So it's kind of one of those things where I kind of always say there's a left and a right to the story. The left is they did ship 20 million. It was the highest volume AI PC in the market. But from a competitiveness standpoint, it really didn't meet. It certainly didn't meet the Microsoft Copilot plus PC metrics that were required. But that's all been done now. Those sins are in the past. And now officially, Intel was able to parade the executives from every major OEM onto the stage to reaffirm their commitment to a design-heavy, volume-heavy cycle with this new Lunar Lake chip. And then, of course, Pavan Davuluri from Microsoft came on stage to confirm that this will be an official Copilot Plus PC announced at IFA. This was a good moment for Intel during a really bad time. And I won't dig into the rest of the bad time here because that's a whole nother topic that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. But Pat, they talked about a 20-hour battery life. I mean, this was listen, I'm going to say this. Signal 65 has done some work. Our firm, yours and mine, beautiful baby, Signal 65, that tests the performance on this. We did some work on the matrix of compatibility. You actually saw that got flashed up on the stage in the presentation, that their compatibility across AI workloads and software was pretty impressive. The 20-hour life, I want to see it. I know. I would hope Intel in this particular moment in time would be really highly scrutinizing of any claim like this they make, because if they're wrong, they're going to get absolutely crushed for making that claim. I'm hoping it's right, because from a competitive standpoint, that's great. Making big progress. x86 becomes more viable to be able to deliver that kind of performance, low power. That was the biggest thing that I got out of was that number, that metrics. That metric. Of course, they have a really strong gaming story right now. They've been able to really lean into the gaming story, the GPU story, which, again, is part of it. I know we love talking MPU, but GPUs really matter with AI, especially if you can have that with the low power. And this AI hub, this performance thing that they're doing for being able to do LLMs, do graphics, and do code, I thought that was pretty cool, too. Like, that was kind of my first seeing it in real time, seeing it perform. And so it was a really positive announcement, Pat. And by the way, I kind of talked about the parade, but you had Dell, you had Lenovo, you had Microsoft, you had, I think it was Microsoft, Dell, HP, Alex Cho, who we ran into, and several others. Also Google, which, by the way, Google came on and for Intel. I don't think Google showed up this week with Qualcomm, which was interesting as well. So among all the chaos at Intel, there's still a lot of proof points to be made. There's still volume proof to be made. There's still execution that has to be done. Intel's under much greater scrutiny than anyone else, but it was a positive moment.
Dan, that was a great breakdown. I did get a little bit of FOMO watching you.
It was these, right? It wasn't the actual announcements because you were watching them. It was just all the selfies. You couldn't be in with me. I missed you.
The not being in those selfies is a big hit. So listen, you did good macro. I'm gonna do a little bit more micro here. Lunar Lake has exceptional single-threaded CPU performance. Part of that is the newly architected cores that they have. These are single-threaded and not multi-threaded. They're very, very efficient. So kudos to the team for that. There's embedded memory, which is going to give you a pop as well, because you can more tightly couple the system to the memory. Apple did it, and Intel's doing it here. I'm expecting the best graphics performance in this class of processors, and you can either take that to gaming or you can take that to AI. Less efficient AI than the NPU, but much more efficient AI than the CPU. You get 100% app compatibility as well. Microsoft, Qualcomm, and ARM have done a stellar job getting ARM native compatibility out there, and there are roadmaps for the more difficult ones that hit like the .sys that aren't just a loader issue, but require native, and you can't do them emulated like VPNs and basically malware detection, stuff like that. If, and a big if, this is the key part here, Danny, you hit this. If the battery life claims are bore out across different use cases, this is a very good thing for Intel. And I will be impressed and I will be surprised that once we get these into our Signal 65 labs that this bears it out. And here was the claim. 20 hours on Intel versus 18 on Qualcomm and 10 on AMD using Procyon productivity, which is independent third party. I just want to see it myself. I want to see exactly the conditions that AMD and Qualcomm were tested. Now, we'll see. Here is where Lunar Lake will get beaten. It will get beaten on most multi-threaded applications because of core count. It's very simple. Even if Intel has more efficient cores on ST, you throw more cores at it. 8 cores on Lunar Lake versus 12 and 10 cores. I with 100% degree of certainty will tell you that on MT CPU scores, Qualcomm with 12 cores will beat Intel with 8. Windows AI in November, Copilot Plus ready. You know, we've had, there's a lot of historical examples of being ready. You know, there was Windows 8 ready. There was Windows 7 ready, right? And now there's Copilot Plus ready. I don't know if that's exactly what we're going to see on the sticker, but it's the way it's going to be positioned, and having Pavan up on stage from Microsoft talking through this almost just makes that go away.
Hey, that's great dive. That's why Perplexity tells the world that you're smarter at the deep dives, and I'm the high level macro guy. That's why we're so good together. We should get married.
We really should, Dan. We really should. And I think
I mean, we have 2 beautiful children, the 6'5" and
oh, that's so good. I was not expecting that. That's really good.
But I don't know. We also brought we have our children from our previous marriages, a Futurum Group, and more and Moor Insights. But anyways, that was a good dive, man. Listen, one quick question for you while I change the topic. What's at stake in your opinion if that battery life thing backfires? Like, because I mean, again, you know, you mentioned third party. Like, that's the thing I keep raising my hand is like, what's at stake here? Because it seems like it was so bold.
I mean, they lose credibility in a time that they've lost a lot of credibility. You know, I am comforted by the fact that they used the Procyon benchmark, which is hard to game, but until I see it, it's hard. You know, it's going to be hard. And then there's the, you know, with the Qualcomm laptops, I can close that thing, stick it in a drawer for like 2 weeks, and bring it out, and maybe the leakage was like 5%. It's
amazing.
Crazy.
It's amazing.
Heck, I had a Mac, ARM-based Mac, sitting in a drawer for a year. I opened that thing up, it had 30% battery life. You know, I have never, ever had an x86 laptop that did that.
You know, it was so appropriate that you did that. It's almost like you're the host. It's almost like you've been doing this for a minute, that you know how to change the topics. Let's talk about Qualcomm. They have a 8-core part. They're coming down market. You know, while we're talking ultra premium and top of the market, Qualcomm's like, look, we're going to attack the whole market. We're going to come out with an 8-core part. We're going to put in the $700. What do you think, Pat? What's going on there?
Yeah, so giving Qualcomm credit here, Qualcomm completely disrupted the Windows notebook market. Some people can say that, oh, it was Apple. I mean, Apple really initiated this, right, by dropping the M-bomb on the entire industry. Hats off to them in doing that, because then that gave an opportunity to Qualcomm, and AMD and Intel had to react. So hats off to them in not only bringing this amazing NPU to the table and enabling Copilot Plus experiences, but even as impressive, bringing the performance and battery life, CPU and GPU to the table. It's pretty amazing. So the first announcement was that they did a while back and announced at Computex was a 12 and a 10 core variant. And this latest out is an 8-core Copilot Plus PC processor. And you might be like, well, so what? Like, it's down core. It's very important. First and foremost, $799 price point. There are Copilot Plus Qualcomm PCs as expensive as $1699 out there. I would say most of them range at about the $1199 price point. And from a unit volume standpoint, there's 3x the volume at that $799 price point. And volume is very important. It's important for scale to Qualcomm. More importantly, it gives scale to the partners who need to be able to write off below the line expenses and amortize those over a larger volume base. Qualcomm put it in the same socket, which means all the platforms that are out there that were already out there, it's a drop-in piece. This puts Intel in a very difficult position. And gosh, it reminds me of the good old days of AMD versus Intel that I was knee-deep in. Literally, Qualcomm drops an 8-core part that has as many cores as the highest end Intel part. And yeah, I get it. Intel cores are more efficient. Check, I get it. Higher performance, we'll see about the battery life. But it puts it in a very difficult position in the consumer space. And here we go. It's going to make benchmarks. The benchmarks wars have begun between Intel, Qualcomm, and AMD. It puts Signal 65 at the forefront of this. I'm recommending, I think Intel should drop some more detailed benchmarks within 2 weeks until the systems come out on September 24th. It's sad that AnandTech pulled the plug, but that just shows the state of affairs today. And quite frankly, it doesn't limit the need for third-party independent benchmarks. I think it actually increases the need for that. I don't think the YouTubers are going to fill that up. Super exciting, man. Stepping back, more competition means more innovation and lower price points for everybody. And you need 3 healthy markets, have 3 somewhat equally sized competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, while the size is kind of somewhat still asymmetrical, and Intel, while it might feel like they're the smallest right now because of market cap, they're actually by quite a large amount revenue the biggest. Having said that, Pat, I agree with you. First of all, great takedown on the overall. And by the way, we need to get to AMD. We'll probably have to come back maybe next week and talk about that because they had a bunch of stuff. Their stuff started popping yesterday, so we didn't have as much time to assess. But they've got a Copilot Plus thing going on too. Pat, just, because you hit a lot of Qualcomm. I was in the room. Cristiano Amon basically said, let's have a benchmark off. He's ready. He wants to, he's basically saying, I'll take your numbers. He's kind of looking at it like the comparisons were across different parts. It was inconsistent. You put your best part against our mid part. Like, that's kind of the tenor and tone I got from the stage. And in the questions, Ryan Stroud, our president of Signal, asked the first question. I asked the last question. We opened and closed that baby down. And I got to spend a bunch more time with the executive team while I was there at IDIFA. And there's a lot of confidence at Qualcomm that they're getting it right. And the numbers won't lie. Of course, there's 2 sets of numbers, though, Pat. There's the numbers of what the benchmarks say, which we're here to work on. And there's going to be the numbers of what the market says, which is what sells out and what people buy and what people use and what becomes more popular. And does Qualcomm really begin to become a household name in the laptop business, Pat? I mean, you and I have been through iterations and iterations of some of these first generation. This Qualcomm part, for the first time, I'm using this device regularly, and I'm saying I could use this device regularly. Like, this is good stuff. So, addressing that sort of mid part of the market, Pat, is also super important. Like, that's where companies exist. They're going to make this big shift in this big wave. And this AI PC thing is just getting started. We knew it would only start this year. We were sort of trying to temper the expectations. We're starting to see this come to life. We're seeing volume starting to ramp. I think it's great that Intel is healthier, and I think it's great that Qualcomm's going all in on making more and more competitive products. This is good stuff. And like I said, we'll come back to AMD later.
Yeah. Hey, just one quick comment. This bodes well for the AI PC market.
It does.
I mean, having Intel come here, guns a-blazing, makes an absolute huge difference. And yes, hey, Eric, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for dialing in. Yeah.
That's always nice to have someone tell you you're pretty. I think he was talking about your tweet about your VO2 Max. That was great stuff.
What a surprise! How did that happen?
Yeah.
Anyways,
you're looking and feeling great. I think dude, like a fight. Like, what do you do? Like fight or like have a boxing match? Like, because now I'm starting to wonder if you're actually metabolically and biologically younger than me.
Dude, if I got hit with one of your punches, it would probably just go through my body.
Yeah, I'm
not interested in any of that.
Yeah, but it would be funny, like a Fight Club moment. The world would enjoy you and I. There's so many other people I think we would enjoy. Anyway, all right. So I digress. Let's talk a little more about Intel, because I don't think we've talked enough. Interesting 36 hours, actually, like interesting 10 years, we could say, but a really interesting week. And you kind of come across the top here. I'm going to talk about pieces of this. You can talk about some other pieces of this. There's a whole bunch of 18A stuff. There was a deprioritization of 20A, a prioritization of 18A, a TSMC node. I knew that. I tweeted something a little bit inaccurately. I apologize for it. Thank you, by the way, all of you that corrected me. It was really important. That was the takeaway of my 2,000-word dissertation. What do you say about credibility, Pat? I guess I blew it early.
Dude, anybody with a brain.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
It's fine. I just laughed because, like I said, did you read any of the rest of it? Is that all we got out of it? It's like being at home, dude. It's like I give the whole story and then someone tells me, like your shoelace is untied. Thank you. Like that. All right. I digress. So let's I'll hit a couple of these things. Maybe you want to hit a couple, and then we can kind of go back and forth on what you think is worthwhile of talking more about. So just really quickly, Lip-Bu Tan, board member at Intel, left the board, did it very, did it amicably in terms of his public note. But, this guy, a legend in semiconductors, Cadence CEO, clearly disenfranchised with the direction of the company. Not a good look. And of course, we heard after that, risks about activists, risks about starting to do further breakups of the company. We saw, that there was basically a board meeting coming up. Everything is on the table. We're now hearing, by the way, I read a note in Reuters today about Qualcomm circling Intel to potentially acquire parts of its business if they end up having to spin them off. Check the Reuters report, Pat, if you didn't see that one. I could see Mobileye, for instance, being a really interesting play, right, for Qualcomm at this moment. Other things too, potentially, but that caught my attention. Not a good look right now to have really credible board members leaving in this particular moment in time. Going to be interesting kind of how they respond to that. I'll kind of tie a couple of 18A threads because you mentioned, it says Broadcom 18A, 20A. First of all, there was this narrative about Broadcom in a sample, a pre-1.0 PDK, not getting the performance out of Intel. Interesting that these rumors have dropped. There was a SoftBank rumor. There was a story related to SoftBanks and others that have been sort of testing on Intel. I think there's an enthusiasm and excitement from Intel to get things out, but clearly there's this weird leaking that's going on, Pat. And by the way, you've been around this industry even longer than I have. So I'm doing this more from hearsay of my experience in learning over the last decade. But this stuff doesn't typically leak. Like things like this, like when you sample and you're letting customers touch this stuff, the fact that this is leaking is very odd. But at the same time, in my kind of long tweet, I'll put it in the show notes. I kind of talk about how there's a bit of this feeling, and I don't want to use the word conspiracy, but I'm going to use it because I don't know what else to use right now. That Intel's kind of like it's the prize fighter that's on the ground, and it's on like the 4 count, and it's like you have the chance to punch it while it's on the ground and keep it from getting back up. There feels like there's a little bit of this circling around Intel right now that, you know, maybe it's because they were determined the government-backed national champion of foundry. Maybe it's because of the ongoing, you know, sort of channel and feedback we've gotten from the market that says we love TSMC. We don't care. We'll just work with them forever. Maybe it's, you know, all the risks associated with that. But, you know, having all of its woes leaked out these days. But then again, we had Blackwell leaks too. So who knows? And then, of course, there was the deprioritization right now where they're basically going to double down on 18A. So right in the heels of Broadcom supposedly getting low performance on a sample pre 1.0, they also came out and said, look, we're going to skip to 20. We're going to go straight to 18. We're going to kind of compromise our 5 and 4. But we all sort of knew, Pat, that not all 5 were going to be like serious nodes. Not serious, that's not the right word. Like full nodes, maybe was the right word I'd use. Serious.
Yeah.
You're not serious people, Moorhead. But in the process, it kind of was like a flip of indication to me, though, that they actually feel really confident in 18A and they feel they can get capacity and they feel they can deliver a really strong part. So that was a really interesting conflict or maybe rebuttal in that moment after the Broadcom story leaked. And then it also brings some question to its own foundry and what it's doing with 20 and what it's going to be able to do going forward. And of course, so there's just all this kind of coming together at one time, Pat. And I know this is where I start to try to take 4 or 5 threads and not conflate them. But man, are they a news cycle right now? And it just feels like there's so much conviction that nobody quite wants to see it go well. And I think that's why I think you and I are trying to just be balanced about what this is. There's some good things happening, some good indicators in this, and some really concerning ones.
Yeah, I've never Babe Ruth Intel. I always said, here are the conditions for success that Intel would have to do to get back on top again. But Daniel, it is knives out on Intel. And, you know, those who don't have history don't understand why knives might be out. I mean, Intel was the NVIDIA of today. Okay, let's just be very clear. They are They are a convicted monopolist, and you know, and that's in the EU. That's just a fact. I'm not making stuff up here, and you know, they're still debating the fine 15 years later. But if you go and read the complaints from AMD, and even when the FTC took a swing at it, I mean, it was ugly, right? Exclusionary pricing, tying, even selling below cost at certain, you know, it was crazy. So yeah, there are people who want Intel dead. I'm not surprised at all. Just look at the people who would benefit if Intel were dead, and they want Intel dead. Now that doesn't separate. You
said that in my tweet.
Oh, you did? Okay. Intel has shot themselves in the foot many years ago, and it's hard to get back. I mean, a semi turnaround takes 5 years. But let me try to fill in not blanks or some oxygen you left for me. You know, I was wondering about Lip-Bu Tan, and by the way, you're right, absolute icon on the board of HPE, Schneider, SoftBank. The guy won the frickin' Robert Noyce Award in 2022 from the SIA. Robert Noyce, an ex Intel guy. And, you know, the rumors said, right, he was frustrated with the large workforce, risk-averse culture, lagging strategy in AI. Now, the interesting thing is, like, the thing that Pat rolled out last earnings seemed to address the large workforce. We know what their strategy is in AI. It looks like that'll probably be a GPU that will make an impact as early as 26. And risk-averse culture, I don't have the spreadsheets or how they make decisions in there. So yeah, I first thought that maybe Lip-Bu was putting together a group of people to maybe go and put pressure on Intel, maybe get Pat fired or something like that. Not thinking that anymore. There was a lot of conversation. It's so funny. Talk about knives coming out. I think I had 60,000 people look at my post on LinkedIn about spinning out IFS. Let me be crystal freaking clear. You spin IFS out before the design company is healthy and IFS is healthy, it will fail. Now, my only caveat on there would be to take it private, okay? And you know, don't put this thing out on the market. And then you have to find private investors, and then it's a negotiation of how you fund that, right? Cap, equity, debt, things like that. What could make sense is you take it private, and its biggest investors, let's say you do a third debt, you do a third capital allocation, and then a third of it are investments by its potential customers. You get Apple to pony up money. You get NVIDIA to pony up money. You get Broadcom to pony up money. And then you wait until 2027 to where Intel Foundry will be driving significant profits. And then I think 2028 before you start seeing profits. Okay, so that's where it is. Well, why do you say that? Why wouldn't that work? Listen, I ran corporate marketing at AMD when we spun off Global Foundries. I know how this works, man. Talk about two sick puppies, right? You had AMD that was locked into long-term wafer agreements that they never kept, but they had to do that to keep Global Foundries going. And the only reason that didn't fail is you had Mubadala, who was bankrolling Global Foundry and internalized all the losses. Final comment on here. God, I love this. Could be a show itself. We should just have the Intel show. You know,
actually, we probably should just do the Intel show.
Yeah. Final comment. You know, I had a little bit of a side eye on. Okay, 18A is going so well, and by the way, their defect density does look really good before going into mass production. That's super helpful. And by the way, that's true. I have no reason to believe that's not true. Is a very positive sign for 18A. Then, if 18A is going so well, then why are you moving? Why are you getting rid of 20A? Right? It seems like you could do both. Well, first up.
Okay, go. I had an answer. You have an answer.
Yeah. First off, 20A was designed to be a pipe cleaner for 18A, but moving resources from 20A to 18A, it just gets better, and you reduce risk by doing it. You know, you reduce likely design risk on Panther, and I know the resources are different. But you can apply to make those transistors, let's say, even more power efficient, right? You have 1,000 engineers. Where are you going to put them? You're going to keep them on 20A, or you're going to move into 18A. So that foots for me. Okay, I had a little side eye in the beginning, but I totally get it, and it foots with me. What were we going to say, Dan?
Yeah, listen, great take. This was a show. Like, we need to do like the Intel run up. Pat, they have to focus. I mean, that was my biggest take, was like, in this moment in time, they have to focus resources. Like, they're promising the world that they're going to be intelligent with their spend. They're going to, you know, lean out and get out of businesses that aren't driving profit for the company. You know, more nodes mean more cost. It's more setup. It's more planning. There's more engineers. There's, you know, all those things, Pat. Like, they have to, if they think they can get on 18A more quickly and ramp it, get to and by the way, focus can mean more profitability, right, on a per wafer basis.
Yeah, man, that was a great comment. You know, we didn't even talk about you know, potentially Brandenburg not happening, not to be confused with Hindenburg. You know,
that's coming next, I bet.
Listen, the Germans didn't come up with as much money. I could see them getting rid of that. I don't understand, you know, dishing off Altera completely unless they have a buyer in mind. I think what that could do is that, you know, brings them cash. To be able to do Something else, Pat did talk about getting out of businesses that were, upside down or zero revenue. I think quantum is on the table. I think neuromorphic is on the table. And one thing that never gets talked about, but I know is a reality, is Intel. Intel has backup teams. They used to have 3 teams that they would put to attack a problem. But you look at the AMD numbers and number of people they have, and it's like, wait a second, how does that work? But I'm sure there are a lot of multi-$100 million projects that add up to billions that are going to get whacked.
Yeah, I look at 3 things, Pat. Nail this PC Copilot AI thing. Nail the Gaudi, then of course to the GPU transition, and become an actual player in AI. The market absolutely hates that they messed this up, and it's unforgivable in many ways. It's not a Pat thing, by the way. This happened well before Pat. He just inherited
the wrong architecture. That's what they did, right? They picked an HPC architecture that was really good at 64 and 32-bit flops, and they did really well out there. And they had an ASIC, but the ASIC didn't save the hyperscalers enough money, and they just did their own with Broadcom.
Yeah, and so we'll be doing some testing on Gaudi. We'll get more out there in the future, because there is some level of compellingness there, and they need to.
Gaudi is compelling, and as we're going to talk about Broadcom, Broadcom's not even focused on the enterprise.
Nope. And then of course, the third is Foundry. And, I think it's part of the differentiation is that it's under the umbrella. The spinoff would be pretty devastating, in my opinion. I just don't know that we need another fabless, and I just don't know how successful Intel will be. Being the IDM was always sort of what made them special. So, spinning off another fabless in this era of ARM and RISC and everything else that's going on, I don't know. I don't love it. I understand why they might have to do it. I just don't love it. All right, listen, let's talk some earnings, Pat. This one, you and I both have had a few opinions about this. Broadcom, so good result. Market hated it. What's going on?
Yeah, so Broadcom beat on nearly everything except the revenue guide that was off expectations by 1%. That's $135 million on $14 billion. I digress. I just want to say, CEO and CFOs take note. This is the way to do the call. Hawk 10, it was a freaking masterpiece. Insights into the overall market, how Broadcom was playing, detail after detail, splitting the market very crisply between AI and non-AI. Dan, the Q&A was 39 minutes long. Okay, I think everybody got a whack at least 1 or 2 questions, and Hawk very patiently, sometimes, they asked the same question. He didn't get necessarily irritated, but that's the way to do that. Okay. Strong results, 3 factors. AI revenues continue to grow, and they go strongly. Second thing, VMware bookings are accelerating, and 3 non-AI semis have stabilized, which is crazy because the broadband market is still in the toilet based on the telcos and the SP. So let's start off with VMware, right? What I loved is Hawk just came right out and said, we said pre-acquisition, we're going to deliver $8.5 billion in EBITDA within 3 years of the acquisition. Where are they? Well on the path to achieving or exceeding this goal in the next fiscal 25. Okay, so that's, I don't know, what is that, 2 years early? 1 year early? It's early. Knock it out of the park. ABV, annualized booking values, up 32%. Yeah, I mean, VMware is going well. But Dan, I think the meme was VMware is just like, crazy. Customers are canceling their contracts and rolling their own KVM or going to Nutanix or Red Hat.
Hypervisor, baby.
We want to do that. Well, it's not in the cards right now. Listen, am I Babe roofing this one? I mean, there will be customers that will leave. I get that. Okay.
I think he's actually ushering them out. He's carrying their suitcases. He's offering. Hawk himself is like, let's go.
Yeah. This is something that companies like SAP should have done like years ago. And by the way, VMware on its own would never have done this. Okay. Let's snap into semis. First of all, 11 plus billion forecast for AI going to 12. 2/3 of that is XPU or accelerator, and 1/3. By the way, that's $8 billion in XPUs. That's almost twice as big as AMD's data center business. Okay. So factual, it goes NVIDIA, Broadcom, and AMD. And inside AI semis, custom AI accelerators grew 3.5x. Fabric Ethernet switching, that's Jericho, Tomahawk 5 and Jericho 3 AI, 4x growth. Lasers and pin diodes, 3x. PCI Express switches, doubled. But hey, there's non-AI AI too, which was just very eloquently up sequentially, right? Hawk believes they hit the bottom in Q2 and Q3. Non-AI networking was up 17% sequentially, even though it was down 41% year on year. And then bookings, demand is up 20% sequentially. And all of this, even though broadband is still in the toilet. CEOs, CFOs, take note. Watch how Hawk does it. Hawk and Charlie show. Just do what they do.
Hawkonomics, baby. Hawkonomics.
Totally.
Did I trademark that? I don't know. Maybe someone else
should. Did you? Are we going to debate on who's? No, you said that.
I said that first.
I know. I know.
I don't get a lot of firsts, but I occasionally say so. Like I said, my historic rise to relevance is all about one-liners. It's never about depth. That's what you're for, buddy. I'm kidding. I love you all.
I'm so much older. I'm like 60 years old, Dan. You're like 30.
I won't hold that against you.
Like twice your age. I never hold your inexperience against you.
Yeah, except when you do. So listen, I went on. I did an interview this morning on Yahoo Finance on this topic. I think you missed the email. I appreciate everyone for having me. But I had a chance. Listen. First of all, Broadcom's fine. 60x% EBITDA top line. I mean, look, only NVIDIA returns more EBITDA on revenue than Broadcom does. I mean, Hawk runs an amazing business, and the distribution and diversification, he's running this. This isn't some new cutting edge future part. I mean, of course, those XPUs are, but like he's also selling like, wireless controllers, PCIe cards, and he's still making this kind of money. That's what Hawk does. That's why, like, when people get all disenfranchised, I'm like, why? This is a great business. It just puts off tons and tons of cash. The software, the move. I mean, look, CA performs well. The Laco run mainframe business. The Brocade side of the house, the semantic side of the house, all good. VMware is going to be good, Pat. And I tell you, I'm being sincere when I say he is carrying the bags of customers out the door. Any sort of deal, midterm, long-term agreements that he had that he was able to shed, he shedded. He's okay with the 20-80 rule. He'll take the 20, 30% biggest group of customers, and then he'll let the long tail do what the long tail does. He'll make more money. He's chopped up the heck out of the cost structure of that business, and he will return capital to both the business and to shareholders. That's what he does well, Pat. The XPU part's really interesting because sell in, sell out, the design part, how much is going in, going out? It's going out a lot faster. I mean, these companies are spending a lot more on this stuff than maybe it's being consumed. And that's according to our data. But I think the consumption is going to start to ramp really fast as this killer inference workload starts to ramp. And XPUs are really, really in a good position, Pat. We're showing the XPU accelerator to be like 20% faster growth than the GPU. Now, having said that, I actually think it's going to be faster than that. I think that's a conservative outlook based upon sort of sentiment. And I don't think the market fully appreciates the sentiment about what an ASIC, a well-designed ASIC for, drug discovery, recommendation engines, filtering can do in terms of lower power, performance, and cost. And of course, vertical integration and control. You'll never hear the cloud companies talk about vertical integration. They're all going to go down the path of vertical integration. And Broadcom's become really astute at building these XPUs. So they know the plan, they know the cost, they know the structure. And Hawk talked ad nauseum about how this kind of market pivot is going on. Pat, I actually think this is a killer business. And then, by the way, all this, we're barely even talking about the fact that networking, look, all these companies that don't want to be beholden, don't want to be locked into the kind of NVIDIA, InfiniBand, and in the rack, out of the rack, NVLink, who are they going to go to? Like, Broadcom is super well positioned in this particular space. That 12 billion number, here's my take on why the market, kind of crapped all over it, is they wanted it to be like 15. They were looking for some, it was the same as that whole kind of whisper number with NVIDIA, like, oh, they only are going to beat by 2.5 billion next quarter. It's like, that's not good enough. Look, they're trading at something like 26 times forward. It's not a super high multiple or premium for a company that's delivering 60x% EBITDA. They've diversified. They've got different businesses. Hawk always makes them profitable. And one other thing, Pat, the whole wireless and connectivity part of the business, the PC, the stuff they do with Apple and smart devices, the ramp on that is just starting. Meaning, like, that old kind of part of their business, they're not really on the AI side of Apple as much in the devices. But as this ramps, it becomes what I think will be one of the most popular parts, this iPhone 16, 17. Broadcom's got the most content out of any silicon provider to Apple. That partnership is deep, and we're not even seeing that in the numbers. That's the part that's lagging right now. So all of a sudden next year, with these new PCs, the new Macs, the new iPads, and the new phones, Broadcom will deliver. Pat, I'm super bullish on this one. I know we're late. We said we knew we were going to be late. The show is too good. We still got another topic. I have to do this in 5 minutes or less. I'm going to move pretty quickly. You talked to Antonio, right?
I did. And I'm glad you didn't fall asleep for it.
I stayed awake this time, but this time I was only like, it was like 10 at night. I was at 4 in the morning. I was trying to do that call when I was in Taiwan. That was idiotic. Blame me. So we both, HPE, Pat, like, look, you and I will sometimes talk about, like, kind of these OEM businesses being single digit, not double digit growth this quarter. Very excited for HPE. They saw 10% growth. I made a joke. I said they grew faster than one of the largest CRM SaaS companies on the planet this last quarter. How fun is that? Margin integrity in place. Antonio was very optimistic about not just AI, but actually seeing growth in their traditional server business. Who's done that? I mean, nobody's had good numbers in servers. And he really talked a lot about discipline and rigor in the way they're running the business right now. We're seeing sort of this chasing of these mega AI deals, big margin erosion, high revenue growth rates, kind of exciting AI announcements. I think HPE is kind of taking the other. I was a little critical of the all-in on NVIDIA thing, not because NVIDIA is not great, but because I worry about the hedging, that's going to create risk, and maybe HPE could differentiate. But look, it seems to be working. They had that 1.7 billion number. The margin looked good on it. He sort of said they're not taking deals that they're not doing well on. So they're being a bit discriminate in kind of how they're doing that business. At the same time, Proliant's performing. And Pat, the other number I really liked is GreenLake, 3,000 new customers. And I want to do a little compounding for you here. They got into close to 40,000 customers. At the growth rate they're doing, 10% per quarter, compounded, by the end of the 2025, 26, they're running a run rate to have 100,000 customers running on GreenLake. Now, as a company that we kind of call a big iron old hardware company, that sure looks like a software model to me. 100,000 subscription customers driving billions of dollars in revenue. That's really positive, Pat. And look, I don't always get excited about these businesses, but I came away from the conversation with Antonio for the first time. I told him this must be probably the cleanest, one of the best looking quarters I've seen from HPE in a really long time. I'm optimistic about it. They seem to be playing their cards right. They're not chasing. They're not chasing the companies that kind of can go that way. They're playing their game. They're running their race. They're sticking with GreenLake. There's probably some flaws in it, Pat, but I want to give credit where credit's due, and it was a good quarter.
Yeah, in my tweet, it was like double digit, baby. It just makes a difference.
Feels good.
At 10% plus, you should be considered a growth company. For sure. I was really enthused by the split between AI and non-AI. Servers were $4.3 billion, up 35%, and operating margin increased from 10.1 to 10.8%. That was AI and non-AI. Investors got spooked about AI profitability because gross margin was down 420 bips. Edge and hybrid cloud revenue and operating margin was down year over year, and cash flow and FCF were down as well. But there were a lot of highlights that that pushed out the low light there. And I was equally
the margin erosion, Pat, was not nearly what others have faced in the same.
It wasn't, and that was the Dell moment the previous quarter where people got spooked on margins. They looked at the flow through to profitability, and I think they had a very similar reaction. 37,000 GreenLake customers is I mean, it's impressive. And yeah, I know there's a lot in GreenLake, but that's GreenLake, and it's subscription service. I love that. One comment that Antonio made with me, he said that HPE infrastructure was in hyperscalers. And that was a new one for me. I followed up on who. Hey, are we sure this isn't tier 2 CSPs here, but hyperscalers? They were like, it's hyperscalers. We'll see. I think that's very provocative. We heard that from Pure Storage as well, and I'm guessing it's Meta there. So who knows? 35% improvement in ARR, and that's attributable to GreenLake. And I'll close this out by talking about the future opportunities here. Private AI just went GA. I cannot wait to talk to customers. I'd love to do an economic study across them as well, interview some of their customers and what the benefits that they're seeing. I got the demo of private AI, and it is freaking impressive. It's really good. I'm a hands-on guy. I'm not as hands-on as Keith or Matt, but I was super impressed by that. Morpheus data, right? Build out that. How do they monetize that? And Juniper is on tap. Close end of 24, start of 25. As we've seen in the era of AI, networking is as important as ever. There's one 800-pound gorilla in the Western world for core switches, and it's called Cisco. Will Juniper help out in that? They're heavy dialed into the SP market, but wonder what they can do in the future.
So much there, Pat. What a show, man. I knew this one was going to be a banger. Sometimes you just call out that they're like, this one's going to be good. And then some weeks we're like, oh, these are like, we're going to talk about sand again. Looks like sand again and laser beams. No, I mean, that's all fun. But I mean, this stuff is fun, man. The rumors, the speculation, and of course, the hard data that would drop this week. And you see, Pat, the path that our newest child together, our Signal, the testing benchmarks, whether that's data center servers and networking, or that's going to be the next generation of PCs and smartphones, just exploding. And everyone out there hopefully follows us, because we're going to have the latest and greatest here.
Guys, our backlog for Signal 65 is gigantic.
Pat, our Signal business is bigger than Futurum was like 2.5 years ago already.
It's crazy. I mean, I think listen, we can pat ourselves on the back, but
pat all the time.
I mean, listen, we both saw a need in the market that was going away, and quite frankly, the independent benchmarks and on the data center side that went away a long time ago. And then, the huge demand with AI PCs, whether it's processor companies, whether it's OEMs, ODMs, and stuff like that, people want to know what the numbers are.
Yeah, and we'll leave it at this, Pat. Making sure that there's a pivot from just testing and performance for being a geek and actually helping businesses and markets understand what this means and how it's going to deliver value. I think that's where we can really shine. That's where we do really shine. And by the way, we just want to say thanks to everybody out there that tuned in for this show. Great comments today. Appreciated all the positive vibes, all the comments that came in. Hopefully you enjoy, subscribe, share with your friends.
Ask questions, man. We want more questions on the socials. Hit us on LinkedIn. Hit us up on the X, Twitter.
Be in our community. Look for long tweets from me and smart ones from Pat. And just stick with us here on the show. We promise we're going to keep it interesting, keep it engaging. But for this show, for this episode, I got to say goodbye to everybody. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week. Adios.